How many times have I cut back to this camera and just had a big smile on my face? In this video, I'm reviewing 2 gain pedals from Drunk Beaver. The first one is bright orange, and it's called the Distortion. And the second one is silver with a flower on it, and it's called the Bloom. The Bloom is based on the Bixonic Expandora, and the Distortion, you might have guessed, is based on the Boss DS1, both of which are favourite pedals of mine. But what Drunk Beaver have done is taken those original circuits, tweaked them, added a bunch of knobs and switches so there's more functionality, and they're cheaper than you might think they are. At the time of making this video, the Bloom is $175 and the Distortion is $150. I've already played through them and I can tell you that those prices are an absolute steal. Both pedals have a similar layer of functionality. We'll start with the Bloom. We've got volume, tone and gain at the top, a mode on the left, then we've got the voice switch, which is germanium, LED or silicon, and then down here is the fat switch. Do we want it fat, do we want it tight, or do we want it classic? And then we've got our foot switch. Over on the Distortion, we've got a mode knob on the left again. Then we've got a mids control. And on this, you can have standard DS1 setting, or less scooped, or flat mids. On the right, we can select a vintage or modern op amp. And then under that, you've got Muff on or off. And if you put it on, it gives you a big Muff style transistor gain stage. And then, of course, a foot switch. Now, not being a mathematician, I can't figure out how many possible combinations are available on each pedal. But I'm sure someone, Michiel, will do that and leave a comment down below. We'll focus on the Bloom first and then go over to the Distortion. That is absolutely ripping, and the gain is only on around 2/3, which is actually quite high, but it's on overdrive mode, and we've got all the way to fuzz to go on that. Yeah, okay, we'll try out some crunch. I'll try and actually get some crunch out of it rather than what that was, which was definitely fuzz territory. Don't forget, this is the clean tone. Right, crunch. Okay, now as a drive, there's still a lot of clipping going on there. And I'm wondering if I've done... No, I did set it to like the warmest tone I could find. It's on Germanium and Classic. Well, hang on, let's just find out what that sounds like. I was backed off the volume a little bit as well. I was on 7. Big jump when it goes into LED, which is kind of to be expected. And then silicon, I'm expecting, is even more raspy. Okay, so in my opinion, if you want to have a more drivey tone from it, you're going to want to use it in Germanium mode and either fat or classic. So crunch there doesn't seem like the right word. I'm not feeling that as crunch. Maybe if I was running through an amp that was more Marshall-y, then that would be more crunchy, warmer. But the Fender is, of course, brightly clean. And I'm not putting it to the Mesa because that would just be distortion on top of distortion. Let's have a look at distortion mode. Oh, now that is a distortion. It is fat and full and clipping, but controlled. And I'm on the LED setting, so it's a bit louder, so I've backed off the volume and gain a little bit, kind of left the tone where it was. And there's super distortions in here, and they are massively big and loud. Not every pedal and every amp goes well with this guitar. This is a perfect combination. I'm also in tight mode, and there's control. It's not gated, but there's almost a gate there. I really like that. That's a good rhythm tone. But let's go for fuzz. How many times have I cut back to this camera and just had a big smile on my face? That's one of my favorite fuzz tones ever. It's in fat mode, it's on silicon, and the gain is only about a third. I feel I'm going to have to play around with this fuzz setting and push that gain, because a third gain on a fuzz? Come on. Right. It's really loud in here, and I love it. There's still that clarity, so even with a gain at max, it doesn't just fill up and get lost. You're getting more sort of everything's getting more compressed, but you're still getting through this clarity that you had at around there when I did the first sound on that mode. I am blown away. I am truly... There's several sounds in this pedal that I've got so far that I think are there's more than one. That's $175, and there are at least 5 useful, fun sounds in there. And this could be one of the only distortion pedals you need. There's so much versatility, and so much switching, and none of it's complicated. And I know that if I'm in fat mode, it's going to give me more bass, and if I'm in classic mode, it's going to give me a medium amount of bass. And then if I'm in tight mode, it's going to take that bass away, but still leave enough. And then germanium and LED and silicon are going to affect that sort of raspy clipping. I am going to put it back in distortion mode for a moment and go through the different types of voice, just so you can hear the difference very clearly. And then I'll leave it on, say, my favorite, and then we'll go through the fat, tight, and classic, just to show you. Right, fat mode first. Now classic. And tight. There are so many available tones in the Bloom. I can't possibly give them all to you in this video, but I can tell you that I'm going to be exploring this pedal a lot. Already that's worth $175. I am pretty blown away by already loving the Expandora style of pedal and then having this. I'm going to move on to the distortion now, which puts me in a weird position because normally when I get to a DS1 style pedal, I get super excited because I know that I love that sound. But I'm really sad to leave the Bloom. I'm going to think of it as like having a really nice main course and then having a great dessert as well. Now that's a lot more gated than the Bloom is. It's still fat and full, and it's definitely taken that DS1 circuit and made it more usable. I love the DS1, and I don't like it when people say that the DS1 is a bad pedal. It isn't. Just you're just using it wrong. But the Distortion is definitely a DS1 for people who don't like DS1s. There's a ton of tone in that, and I've only on the first one. On the Distortion, there are so many modes. Similarly to the Bloom, the Distortion has lots of modes on it. There are 8 different clipping styles. So I've got the Muff off, I've got the vintage mode engaged, and I'm in... What mode is that? How does one... Oh, that's a left to righty. Okay, I'm in the middle, which I don't know what that is. Hang on, let's find out. Right, I'm pretty sure with the mid switch, the left is stock, the middle is less scooped mids, and the right is flat. I don't actually know, and it doesn't say in the manual. So whatever it is, it's affecting the mids. But don't quote me on what I'm saying on that knob switch. Right, Muff is off, and we're in vintage op amp mode, and we'll start, I'll play the same riff, and we'll run through the different clipping modes. Right. That's all of them. I don't know about you, but I kind of lost focus halfway through that because there are so many. Any more than 3, and I don't tend to deal well with it. But I think my favorites were the last one and maybe the LED as well, maybe the 78. So there are some great ones in there. Of course, there were some volume discrepancies because the clipping is changing, and you're going to need to affect everything. So it's not a fair test, but that shows you what it does without taking an hour to do it. I'm into this tone. This tone. So let's switch to modern. Now, is it brighter? I'm going to go with brighter. And then let's go back to my favorite mode. Now the Muff, on or off, I'm going to turn it on and see if it ruins everything or makes it better. I don't think one is better than the other. I do kind of miss it when it's off. There's a surprising amount of clarity when it's on. I think that's in general for both these pedals. No matter how much you push that thing, I'm getting clarity still. It's not distort. What am I trying to say? If you've played a lot of pedals in your life or a lot of amps, and you play something that is, let's say, cheap and not thought out well, just copied from something, then often you can get into territories with those pedals where there's an undesirable sound, and it's just where the components either aren't up to scratch or something hasn't been designed properly, and it's just making a noise that isn't, I'm trying not to say isn't good, but isn't desirable. With this, with both of them, everything, I mean, things jump out when you change the clipping mode, but everything seems to work. So please bear in mind that I'm not adjusting the knobs to compensate for volume and distortion because of that switching, but I'm imagining that I am. So I hope that's all right for you. Amazing. Right. I'm going to do some more sounds with this. I haven't played the Baritone yet, and I'm going to have to do that with the DS1. Every time I change instrument, I want to play all of the pedal settings with that instrument. That's phenomenal. Wow. Lots of because I really don't know what to do. I feel like I'm at a buffet of amazing things that I enjoy every taste. And, you know, I just want to keep eating. But I might be sick. At least let's mess around with the mids knob. Whatever this does, I like the bit in the middle. Things like this are so subtle, but they're making the little differences where you can just sort of tweak on the top. This is a video of just me smiling like a gormless freak and making really high gain sounds. I want to try some more guitars. If you're still here, thanks for sticking around. If you've already gone and bought the pedal, well done. Good choice. If you haven't bought the pedal yet, you really, really should. Now that is a sound your neighbours are not going to like. That needs to be on a record. It's normally this guitar has these mini sort of humbuckery things. It sounds kind of nasally and quite Brian May, and I like that. But through this pedal, it's very, very different. Again, don't forget, this is the sound without the pedal. It's ridiculous. $150 for the distortion, and I honestly think that Boss can hang up their DS1 shoes. Whatever that means, it means that I would buy this over any DS1 that is currently out there. This is phenomenal. I have, by the way, I think 14 or 15 DS1s now. It might be even be at 16. If I just wanted the tones and didn't care about the collection, I would get rid of those DS1s right now because this one does everything I want. And I want to play it with the Kurt Cobain Jaguar. Once again, a grinning monkey with a guitar. I could have chosen one of about 4 of those settings and it would have sounded great. And I'm not actually sure I chose the best one, but I wanted to stop messing around and, you know, actually give you some information without spending... I've spent so long playing, by the way. This is going to be edited right down. This is one of the longest videos I've ever made unedited. Whew. I actually find it really difficult to review a pedal that I love because I have a hard time being objective. And it's really easy for me to sit here and play some of my favorite riffs through some of my favorite sounds. So I'm going to point out some stuff that is not... They're not faults, they're just... The pedal's not perfect, bear in mind that I don't care because I love what it does. Right. The distortion, it gets a little bit of build up if you don't press the button sometimes, and there's a little bit of a clicking noise when you change the modes sometimes. Again, nothing to be worried about, and in this example now it's not happening. Yeah, not happening. Right. Also, it's a bit noisy, you know. Understandably, there's a lot of gain going on here. There's a lot going on inside the pedal. Yeah, it's a kind of similar story with the Bloom. A lot of noise because there's a lot of gain. Well, that's maximum gain. That's an acceptable amount of noise for anybody. And I guess a pitfall of both of these pedals is that volume jump between different modes, which if you've never dealt with different types of clipping before, you might think that that is a fault in the pedal. And it certainly isn't. It just means that because it's doing something in a different way, you have to adjust the knobs to compensate for that clipping. But I do worry that because the price is accessible, particularly for this one, that some of you might be worried that there's something wrong. There isn't. Yeah, I am over the moon to be playing these pedals. I've waited too long to try them. I was in talks with Drunk Beaver for quite a while because they were running out of stock. So I'm going to leave it there because I am definitely sure that I've done a good job of this review, even though I've been way positive. There's nothing not to like. If anything, the only downside of these pedals is that you're going to lose hours playing through them. So if you're a busy person with lots to do or certain responsibilities, that's the only reason you shouldn't buy one of these pedals or both of them. Because once you plug them in, you're not going to have anything else in your life. Right, there are links to Drunk Beaver in the video description and first comment. There's a subscribe button there if you want it, and yeah, go and visit them, go and support a smaller pedal builder, and at the same time, get a couple of fantastic pedals. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!